And now we return to the final half of our third and final class on mantra. Probably somewhat rare to get a full course on the meaning and facts and elements and usage of such a powerful tool as the mantra. Mantra being one of those words that has, from India and from the Sanskrit, kind of made its way across the shores and to these shores, and the coming of great beings like Swami Vivekananda in 1893 who brought all of this yoga and Vedanta and Tantra in a main nadi, just opened up a floodgate towards the west, England and America and parts of Europe. So we were very fortunate to have this great being sort of initiate us in a mass way with the knowledge of words, because as we were showing and seeing in the discriminative sort of wisdom chart, that the real scriptures are kind of mantras too that have a great effect upon your mind when you entertain them and contemplate them. So it wouldn't be just a one and done. This is one of those expressions they use nowadays. One and done. Like a boxer, you see, it just punches once and that goes away, and punches once. You have to follow through with a bunch of punches to win the match. So one and done, and philosophically speaking, would mean that you just read the scripture once, and then you didn't think about it, you didn't take the slokas and contemplate them, or you did the mantra once and stopped, and went back to the teacher and said, it's not working, see. Oh no, you have to do it over and over again, many times, all day, for days, for months and weeks, to open up that power that's locked inside of it. So the repetition of a thing is very important, and that's why for 30 years or so we've been repeating charts like this, and we have them now on YouTube as classes you can watch, and series of classes is on our own SRV website, and making them available for people so that they can get this idea of repeating powerful things, because there's no doubt that we're repeating many mundane things, like as in our chart here last half, where we were seeing all these words we talk about every day, the same conversations we're having at work, the same conversations we're having with people in our household and family, and it's just a repetition, isn't it? So if that kind of a repetition just kind of creates a mundane human convention and a superficial surface kind of life for us where there's no depths to it all, then we're looking for something that will deepen and intensify our consciousness. And our consciousness is fathoms deep, and we're only just staying on the very surface of it. Ram Prasad has a song where he says, "Oh mind, you're just a sparkling fish that frequents the surface of your little pool." See, where death is granted is fishing grounds. See? Quick, dive deep before death comes with his net. So the lines of the song go on like this, and to say to us that we're just staying on the surface of our consciousness all the time, and activities are keeping us on the surface. Fundamentalist religious thinking is keeping us on the surface. Scientific thought that refers and pertains only to physics alone, the physical level of things, keeping us on the surface. And if you want to inspect the snow conditions like an Eskimo does, to have a safer and deeper life, then you're going to have to slow everything down, and the mantra is one of those things that helps you slow it down. And not only slows it down, but redirects it to a deeper level of your consciousness, because these words are hidden back in your own consciousness. That's why when you hear them, even if it's ages old, like the mantra everyone has heard, Om Namah Shivaya, or Om Mani Padme Hum. Everyone knows that because Dalai Lama has said that's his mantra. So there are a few mantras that have been let out of the bag for the public more and they may not know the mantra very much. They don't know what each particular word means. They don't know that the letter in each word also has power in it, and that all the worlds and everything that has come out is in the Word. In the beginning was the Word, was how Jesus put that, and that's all things with beginnings and ends are in the Word. So that will introduce you past this level of Maya, spell of Maya. If you know this, it'll get you out of the spell of Maya and get you on towards Mahamaya. That is subtle cosmic principles. You know that there are subtler things now that you can entertain your mind with, and now it's up to you to do that. So scriptures are one of the ways in which you're led towards that. And then you can see as we went through this beautiful but very deep, didn't have enough time to really do it full justice on the first half, how you could say Shiva and Shakti, this absolute freedom combined with this eternal wisdom, is the nature of everything. And the best representation for that would be these seed words, or bijams. Now, and mantras, we were talking about how Gaudapada and his student Shankara, who gave us this sort of discrimination chart we looked at in the first half, also, although they were Advaita Vedantists, they were also Tantrasists, Shaiva Tantrasists. They believed in Lord Shiva. So anytime you believe in a form, whether it be Shiva or Vishnu or Divine Mother, you've entered the realm of Tantra. And basically Advaita and non-dualism is you're leaning more towards Vedanta and Zen and more the non-dual forms of India's darshanas. So you could see then how great Advaitas like Shankara and Gaudapada in that line used both Vedanta and Tantra. Samayachara Tantrasists, that's the school that Shankara and Gaudapada belong to. So they're at the same time they're courting the highest nirvikalpa samadhi in the deepest meditation, beyond all worlds and beyond all name and form, and getting to this very high level. They're doing it by writing hymns to Shiva, or to Bhavani, Divine Mother, or Parvati, Divine Mother, or aware of the mantras and the whole element of purification that's necessary, that most beings have to move along as far as a pathway. You can't just jump to the highest step, Sri Ramakrishna said, from the lowest, unless you are a past master. So you're going to have to proceed by stages, avastas, and do all the practices and the purifications, the nyasas and your puja and so forth. Not only the puja you're doing in your shrine room, but the puja which is your life. You're going to have to follow all those rituals and fulfill all those criterion, and then come to a state where you have a relationship with Ishvara, like the chart showed us. And so that's even sung by Shankara when he sings Gyeyam Gita Samhasa Sahasram Gyeyam Shri Pati Rupam Ajasram Gyeyam Sajana Sange Chitam Gyeyam Dinaja Naya Chavitam Bhaja Govindam Bhaja Govindam Bhaja Govindam Mudhamate Samprapta Sanihite Kale Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karine Bhaja Govindam. Of course, that's only one verse of many in the famous hymn, the song that never ends. Verses are being added to this ever since 700, when Shankara first penned the earlier verses. But he says here in this verse, which is pertinent to our subject, read the Gita, recite the Sahasranam, that is the 1,000 names, divine names, mantras of the Lord, and meditate daily on the form of the Lord. Say your mantra, lead the mind always to holy company, distribute your wealth amongst the poor, and for all good causes. Worship the Lord, worship the Lord, worship the Lord, O you fool, because when the time of death comes, what good will grammatical rules and regulations do you? So he has these many verses that follow the gamut, and this particular one came to mind for me when I thought about recite the Sahasranam, say your mantra. So he's telling this to people who are have received the boon of getting a mantra from an authentic teacher and using it their whole lifetime, because they're not only getting realized for it, they're pouring energy back into it so that others can get realized by it. And that's why, you need someone who has taken the mantra apart, can explain the syllables and the letters to you, and knows that inside of the syllables and the letters, the Divine Mother of the Universe exists in her most subtle and potent form. The Vak Devi. You see, Vak Devi means the goddess of the word. So sometimes we sing that. Vani Saraswati Vak Devi Bhagavati Parvati Mampahi Vinapani Hamsavahini Vedanta Rupini Pralayamam Vani Saraswati Vakdevi Bhagavati Parvati Mampahi. So, Bhagavati, the Divine Mother of the Universe, Vani Saraswati, who rides the swan, you see. Vakdevi, the goddess of the word. Vedanta Rupini, the form of the teachings of the Vedanta, just the highest philosophy in India. Palayamam, please save me, please save me. See, so all of these beautiful verses in this hymn to Saraswati, who is the goddess of the word, she's pictured right there. This is an image I took a picture of in Chennai at the boys' school where my guru worked as a young man, teaching these young boys higher things in life, their school they were at. And you go into the hall, and this is the Saraswati that they bow before every day and have been worshipping for decades. So it had a very profound effect on me when I saw that, because he was passed by the time I returned to the place where he had taught as a young monk. I saw the little hut he stayed in, which was, a quarter the size of this room, thatched roof and so forth, where he taught his kids. So and then as he grew, he was sent to America, and he had gotten the mantra from Sri Sharda Devi, and he brought it here and gave it to us, and taught until he was in his mid-90s about the Vedanta, based on Vedanta Rupini, that she is the form of the wisdom that you're hearing. And I sometimes try and use that on people who are listening to my talks and discourses. You see, basically, you're hearing me initiate the words, they're going across the ether, they're striking your eardrums, and they're vibrating. And what is it that's making you understand them? I don't know if people think that way, because back at the level of just plain mantras, where you're just having conversation every day, you're never thinking that way. You're never thinking of, why do I understand what you're saying? I mean, it could be that I don't understand what you're saying because you're crazy when you're talking trash, you see, or conventional and mundane things, superficial things. You're not on the deep level, and people don't want to go to the deep level, so you can't take them there, so you have to stay on the surface level with them. That's even with intellectual people who are on the surface level of things. So, that they're not understanding this desire to dive deep, O mind, dive deep into the ocean of God's beauty. If you descend to the uttermost depths, there you will find the gem of love, see, as Kabir sings in one of his beautiful songs. So this, you get a Lord Buddha or a Sri Krishna or a Gaudapada or a Shankara, or someone who wrote a song like this, or penned out or composed a scripture. You've got people who aren't shallow anymore. They don't want to go back to the shallows. They want to stay in the depths. See, they've learned how to hold their breath. We were doing that when we were kids in the neighbor's swimming pool. How long can we hold our breath? You get up 2 minutes, and then get up there to the top of the pool. So we were all interested in going down where it was peaceful and quiet. See, so if people then have a yearning for that depth and quietude, like I said at the first half, they'll practice silence. Then they'll start to infer or intuit some inner voice or inner word, or the voice in the wilderness. I mean, you've heard it called by many different things, but you'll have to sit long enough to hear it, and it could be the sound of Om that you begin to hear, because it's one of the greatest or the greatest of all bijams here is Om. It's right at the top at her crown, you see. Sacred bijams of mantra science, then. So I was just saying that you probably have a rare opportunity to get a course in teachings of mantra like this, with some 12 or 15 charts spoken by somebody who got initiated by someone who used the mantra for 50, 60, 70 years in his life, transmitted it to this teacher who is then speaking the words on mantra, and after some 50 years of practice myself of the mantra. So, because I'm now 70 and I'm celebrating my 50th year of sadhana and my 50th year of vegetarianism and so forth. So, following the path that long. So, that might be a kind of rarity, but another kind of rarity is finding out about these bijams. They're not really listed in books. In fact, they're kind of held quiet and secret. And but I think we should know about them if we're using them in our mantras. Maybe we wouldn't take the mantras so lightly if we knew how deep they were. Like AUM, can mean Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. It can mean Father, Mother, and Guru. It can mean waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. It can mean immanent, transcendent, and absolute. There are so many designations, triple designations, they're called triputis, that can go along with the word Om. And that's just to understand its subtler meaning. So if you're just saying Om, Om, Om like a parrot, as we said last week, it may have some effect on you, and maybe you'll recognize the inner when it happens to you by having said the outer enough. But it would be a much quicker process if you knew the meaning of it and could contemplate on it, because then it would all of a sudden show up in you very quickly. Knowing the meaning of something gets rid of doubt and fear. And when that happens, spirituality suggests itself to you right away. I mean, it's your spirituality, it's your consciousness, and you've somehow been robbed of it, you see. Probably by habits that you learned from upbringing and from society and from people who are just using lower mantras on you all the time, as if they mean something or had any deeper meaning. But then you started to hear your teacher speak, and it acquainted you with the fact that there was deeper meaning in everything. Maybe even the goddess was somewhere in that word, and I could ferret her out, So it's just by looking at it with my third eye or with my consciousness and penetrating, piercing it like splitting an atom. But split an atom from my intelligence. So that would be like one of the mantras, one of the bijams that's almost a mantra in himself. That's called Om. So you can see there, it's pointing to a bija of transformation, impetus for revolution, weapon for regeneration. No, actually that was clean, wasn't it? So, because I was following the line to the Guru bead there. So you can see that I've aligned these bijams around her and there's a line pointing to each one of these beads on the mantra. That was because I was going to, if we had time, segue into the meaning of the mala chart, where each bead on the mala has, according to the scriptures, out of the Aksha Malika Upanishad, has a different deity assigned with it. So if you do your beads, you see, and you're passing over each bead, you should know which deity you are honoring as you used your mantra on that bead. That's how in-depth it can get. And this is after you'd bathed your mala in milk and butter and wrapped it in sacred leaves and washed it and had it blessed by your guru. And so like the mala itself, or what we'd call the rosary in this day and age, is the most sacred of all objects. It's like your wearing cloth and your meditation chutter and things like that. So you treat it reverently, you keep it reverently, and you know that it's got a huge significance in the inner worlds. So you might not know who and what you're invoking when you're doing mantras, so you should find out. You don't want to piss off any gods or goddesses inside by mispronouncing their name or by not knowing what it means when you use it, or just using it for conventional or surface things, sort of like I have a mantra merit badge kind of way of thinking. So you really have to go into this deepness of it. So back to Om then, I was following it there, and really meant to read what was next to it here. It's the representation of timeless awareness, and it's the medium for the absolute and the relative. So Sri Ramakrishna used to say that too. Om is the bijam for Brahman, and out of Om, which is in the beginning was the word, kind of speak, came all the worlds and all the forms and all the names and all the deities and everything right on down to the 5 elements came out of this formless Brahman. And Brahman didn't change at all when it came out of it, nor did it change at all when it went back into it. It's immutable. Akshar, it's indestructible and changeless. So that's how they describe Brahman. So Om is the best word to represent that, and I already told you some of the triple designations of it. I think probably as Advaita Vedantists, we're most interested in A being the waking state, U being the dreaming state, and M being the deep sleep state. And then the little shvara that's detached from the rest of the letter of Om is Turiya, the 4th state. So there's 3 states to go through, and then there's a 4th state that's beyond them. And so you're using your 3 states every day. You wake, you dream, you go into deep sleep, you come back to waking. And so people are doing this naturally, so why shouldn't they do it consciously, you see? And maybe even when they get to deep sleep, have enough impetus there, enough knowledge, enough power from your mother mantra to penetrate that final veil, as we penetrated through here and understood Shiva and Shakti. We want to have communion with Ishvara, so we get into deep sleep and we have a glimpse of Turiya, this third eye kind of level. If thine eye be single, you shall know the truth. So the truth of the formless nature of Shiva and Shakti in union, Kamakala, is there in the innermost consciousness of all beings. So Om will be key mantra, key bijam in your mantra to affect that kind of deep insight and realization. Let's go around to the left. There's Aim. That's Saraswati's own mantra. So it's her own bijam, her own bijam. It's the herald of spiritual wisdom and the subtle key of creation. Just pointing to one of the beads there. Bijam of wisdom, Aim. And Hrim then is Durga's bijam, implement of refinement of consciousness and the neutralizer of all negativities. You worship Durga, or synonymous with Mother Kali really, because Kali was born out of Durga's third eye in the scriptures. A beam of light came out of her third eye and Kali was formed, and Kali was able to destroy the demons there that Durga wanted dispatched. So in the case of Hrim, it's this bijam of purification. And you'll find in people who have that mantra, then they've really given themselves up to the power of Shakti at the highest level, and are going to have their minds purified in one lifetime. Maybe sooner, depending on how intensely they use this mantra. Then there's Shrim, the bijam of abundance. The bullet points there are harbinger of quality and quantity, and bestower of mature fulfillment. So Shrim, more associated with Lakshmi, or Kamala. That is basically fulfiller of all desires, and qualitative kind and quantitative both. If you want a lot, you'll get a lot. If you want the essence, you'll get the essence. She's the determinator, or determinative principle of all things. And so when you say Shrim or if you're given Shrim by the teacher in the mantra, then as many people, most of the people I think in India are, love Lakshmi because of the abundance she grants, and many beings seeking that abundance will worship her. If we go then to the right-hand side, or left-hand side, Klim is another powerful bijam. Impetus for revolution and weapon of regeneration. So that is also pointing to one of the beads there on the mantra. So that's transformation. All the elements of your being can receive this by using that bijam and knowing its nature, can receive a transformation on the level that they need to get to the next level of where they're going. And that's followed in the end by Krim, bija of insight. Oracle of infallible omniscience and the revealer of eternal perfection. So it's a very powerful bijam in itself because of those two reasons. It will be on hand then to reveal your Atman and show you that your Atman is omniscient and all-knowing. Now here's a couple quotes at the bottom of this, easy to go through but hard to comprehend maybe, because we'll have to give it to the ancient rishis of Vedanta, Vedas and the Tantras, that they know what they've been doing for thousands of years by understanding these words. Probably they got lost many times along the way, and so they had to be meditated upon and reclaimed. I heard the powerful word. She gave it to me, or he gave it to me. So there in any given age it could be lost because of breakage of the line of the lineage, or children forgetting it, fathers and mothers not passing it on to their next generation. And so knowledge of the realms that the bijams signify also got lost. So pretty soon you only had 3 worlds and you'd forgotten the 4th world and the 5th world and the 6th world. Sound familiar? Like in this day and age, we don't even know that there's 7 realms. We think there's just Bur. Basically, we're obsessed with Bur. Just the physical alone. That's it for us. What to say about such beings? That they haven't penetrated the surface of their consciousness and gone deeper to find where their ancestors went, at least, you see. Or where the elementals are that they dream about. And where the vision of these gods are coming from. But out of nowhere sometimes. There were that sage or seer that you saw in your dream who told you something when you were 19 years old or 20 years old, and you remembered it. So what I'm saying here is that this is very easy to go through, and the words are rather easy to say and remember, but the power in them is ages deep, and I think very, very apropos for transformation, purification, gaining of wisdom, and abundance and transcendence. If you want to use English words that sort of align with these bijams. Of course, then you're going to have to say them in conjunction with a divine name, because that's how mantra works. Probably the only one that may escape that rule is Om. You can just say Om, they say, and that's going to be powerful, especially if you concentrate and say it. It has the ability to take you straight to a higher level of thinking, or non-thinking as the case may be. And so Holy Mother said, that if you know the meaning of these bijams, they'll take you higher quicker. But if you don't know the meaning, you say them, they'll give you a little benefit. So here's a couple of her other quotes about this. She says, "Do you know that the Master himself taught me these mantras and bijams and how they connect with the deities? He gave me mantras possessing great power. They are imbued with the pure force of renunciation." Sri Sharda Devi, the Holy Mother, we call her. So, if you ask her what's in just one word description of what's in a bijam, renunciation, it'll cut away all your attachments. Didn't we say that in the last chart? Lord Kapila said, if you get rid of your attachments, you're on the verge of realization. So you get liberation from that. So, how many things are you clinging to? Is the are you so weak and low as to cling to mundane things? Or are you clinging to things that you have an excuse for clinging to, like death? You see, nobody wants to go to death, so people are definitely going to cling to life. You see, I think the teaching of clinging to life, which is the fifth and lowest hell that Father of Yoga, Abhinavesh it's called in Sanskrit, is not just that people fear death and don't want to go to it, it's that they enjoy life so much that they want to cling to it, even in an old body. So you'll find people avoiding death at all costs. And our civilization, that is, our culture, America, is very good for that, because now we've come up with scalpels and medicines and, elixirs and various things, that drugs and so forth, that we can escape death more and more for a longer period of time. And kind of a coward's way out, in a sense, the way we're following things. As if elongating our life just for enjoying more pleasure or having more low-grade mantras in our ears, is somehow going to benefit it, when it hasn't benefited us for lifetimes. We still find ourselves in the same condition with the same people saying the same low-grade mantras, suffering the same problems with the same conditionings and the same old recycling of things, you see. Ho hum, you see, style. Maybe that should be added up here as two bijams, ho and hum. And you put them together, you'll find out how bored some people have gotten with that kind of life. Our founder, Lex Hickson of SRV, just called that mundane human convention. He had a nice phrase in English, mundane human convention. They're all involved in that. Everyone lives in pallid imitation of everyone else. You see, one of Ram Prasad's songs. So in that way, I'm saying, kind of in a long-winded fashion, that all of this is very easy to look at, quick to hear, but you should find yourself a teacher who knows what it means and can transmit you a mantra accordingly, like she says here, with the deity that it pertains to. So that's why I'm in the know that this is pretty much Lakshmi's realm, and this is Durga's realm, and this is Saraswati's realm. If I know this, then the mantras that are given or received by the Guru, in whatever the case may be, will already be invested with some knowledge. It won't just be, like I said, from a hitchhiker or some person on the beach. I heard this from a Guru. Well, what does it do? Who's it for? What's it mean? I'm sorry, I can't answer those three questions, you see. Those are the three main questions. I've had experiences with teachers, particularly in Tibetan Buddhism, who told students to go back and ask what the mantra means. Can I get initiated into this path? Have you ever been initiated before? Yes. Did you get a mantra? Yes. Do you mind telling me the mantra? Here's what it is. Did you find the meaning of the mantra? No. Then go back to the teacher and ask them what the meaning was. So they wouldn't let them in the path because they'd already received a mantra, and the teacher who gave them the mantra wasn't intelligent enough or accomplished enough to tell them what it meant. So that's the way people proceed in Maya, blindsided. And so the mantras that are actually very powerful might as well be low-grade mantras. You might as well have reduced them and taken away all their effectivity by pursuing a course like that, by dissing them, by not respecting them. See, whereas if you had have known that Shiva and Shakti is in them in various forms, you'd be very reverent of them and you'd make inward progress. Don't confuse mantras with Mahavakyas. There are 4 great Mahavakyas. I've actually found 6 or 8 more in the Upanishads in my own study of the 108 Upanishads, but the 4 classic ones are there. Tattvamasi, Pragyanam Brahma, Ayamatma Brahma, and Aham Brahmasmi. These are not something that you repeat over and over again, unless you probably want to melt your brain or blow your head out. You say it once, and of course that once should be invested with, I know what I'm saying here and what I'm asking. Because they don't have anything to do with forms and gods and goddesses and so forth. They have only to do with formlessness. And they'll even take your form and reduce it to a formlessness. Aham Brahmasmi means I am Brahman. You can't get any more direct than that. It's like our version of Christ saying, I and my Father are one. So he realized his identity with the Lord, with the Almighty Spirit, and his personality and ego went away, and he had the vision of the formless light. See, he came out of the wilderness saying that. In India, even millennia before Jesus, they had mantras for that, Aham Brahmasmi, which took everything about them and melted it away. It dissolved the mind stream, because the mind was involved in projecting things. So when you got to saying that once, and you got that from a teacher who shared it with you, and probably you were a monk when that happened, then it dissolved everything in you that had any power for producing forms and names. You know Sri Ramakrishna's story. If you strew paddy seed, that's rice seed, around before the monsoon season, you come back after the monsoon season, then the seeds have gone riot. But if you had cooked those rice seeds just for a little while, like a half minute on a frying pan or a pan over a fire, and then strewn them around before the rainy season and come back, then they didn't sprout anything. There was nothing there but decaying husks. So he's talking about Mahavakyas that burn away all power for regeneration. None of these have any power anymore, except back inside of the mother, who uses them to start new creations, like I chanted at the beginning of this class. That formless essence out of whom sprang the Trinity. So Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva sprang from them. There's a quote down here about that we're getting to. So you can see the meanings for that. Tattvamasi, that thou art. Pragyanam Brahman, this self is pure consciousness. Ayamatma Brahma, this self is Brahman. And Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. Those can't be mistaken for anything that has to do with form. That's the end of relationship between God and devotee. That's where all distinctions disappear, and there's just this innate, eternal, primeval, homogeneous essence that always was. And if you want to understand how it turned into something else, you should look back on Shiva and Shakti and find out how the one turned into two. Rishikirsa had a desire to create at the highest level out of perfection, svatantriya. Then you'll have a very good philosophy for telling you how the one became the many. because Vedanta is not going to really give it to you or go there. The becoming is not interesting to them. The being is all it is. So that might be a good, simple way of telling the West, if they want spirituality, they should focus on being, not becoming. On non-transformation, not transformation. On non-origination, not origins. If you want the highest spirituality, called samadhi or nirvana, there it is in simple English. And these are the 4 sayings that would go with it. The closest that words can come to describing what's indescribable. So, hard to mention mantra without showing what's beyond it as a kind of form of a mantra, but it's called a maha, great, vakya, saying. There's the word again, vak. The Vak Devi. She's in the formless words. The words that bespeak of formlessness, like Om. And she's also in all the great bijams that will kick form off and running in the race of Maya. You see? And they're off. Ding, the racetrack. Here we go again. So a good quick study, but I hope it's inspired some deep thought. And if you have a mantra, which everyone in this room does, and many of those watching on live streaming now, you can invest that recitation of your mantra with deeper knowledge of what is actually happening and going on when you recite it, even silently inside of your mind, because that's supposed to be the most effective way. Well, if you get a mantra, then you would have received what's called diksha. And mantra diksha would be the fullest expression of that term. As I, through the 50 years, I was saying, of my practice of sadhana to this day in this lifetime, came to know about many different kinds of diksha. Now, I want to say that probably for this country in this age, what you'd want to concentrate on is mantra diksha. It's right there. See? So here's a list of all the dikshas that I could think of and that I'd heard of. And then here's some examples with the drawing. So mantra diksha, you can see this person bowing here prayerfully with his hands folded, and he's doing a mantra inside his head. So his teacher gave him that mantra diksha. He got initiated into the mantra. And so mantra diksha is the overall best and, of course, most well-known, probably even popular form of diksha that you can get. There are other dikshas that we've entertained in the West, but I think because of our lack of qualification and preparation, they've not wrought the best effect on us. Like, for instance, Shaktipat Diksha. A lot of people were interested in that in the 70s and so forth. You see, Shaktipat Diksha means here by transferring of subtle power. So if you have a being like Sri Ramakrishna doing it, well, sure, bring it on. I'll take it, you see, because he'll follow you into the deepest regions of your consciousness and guide you all the way to the goal. That's what he promised in life to us who took initiation to him. We will be there even at the time of your death to take you to the highest goal. So, but if you have Shaktipat Guru given by a person who's interested in occult powers, which we've seen some of come here in the West through the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, then that can be tampering, a kind of psychic tampering with the mind. It's, number one, for selfish purposes on the part of the so-called teacher, and number two, because the person isn't ready to receive that power if it's authentic. So first of all, is that person have power? Does he have power? Does he, she have power? And how are they transmitting it to me? And what will it do to me? And am I ready to receive it? These are questions that people just throw to the four winds and jump in, you see. And then wreak the effects later, which some of them are not very friendly or happy. Some negative effects come about. And that would actually have to do I didn't mean to bring it out in this order, but that has to do also with hasta diksha, by a hand on the head. Now we know that this is hasta means hand, a touching of different parts, and we know that Sri Krishna probably touched Arjuna on the head when he gave him the vision of the cosmic form in the Bhagavad Gita, Vishvarupa Darshanam, because all of a sudden everything on the battlefield turned into a cosmic form. He saw the Lord with thousands of mouths and thousands of hands and thousands of eyes and open mouth with soldiers and rivers of blood and elephants and everything that was in the battle being devoured, basically, and had a very frightening vision of the cosmic form, Vishvarupa Darshanam. That darshana was all happened because Sri Krishna touched him, hasta diksha. And so we know that's a very authentic, for a purpose, reason for touching. Sri Ramakrishna did the same, and you see it here in this inset, hasta diksha, a picture that I found of Sri Ramakrishna touching Naren, the young Swami Vivekananda, before he was a monk, with his hand, and giving him hasta diksha so that it awakened him to certain remembrances of his past lifetimes, because Sri Ramakrishna wanted to know if Narendra was that soul that he had invited, as it were, to earth with him when he incarnated. This is all in 1800s. So Vivekananda and Brahmananda and Turiyananda and others came to Sri Ramakrishna when he incarnated, his 16 direct disciples, and they received initiation into spiritual life through this great master. So here's just a few mentions, but all in accord with mantra diksha. That's the one that is very safe, very authentic, and which most serious and sincere practitioners are using and have been using maybe for 5, 10, 20, 50 years of their life when they got interested in spiritual life. So that's something that we're carrying on with us, where it's part of the tradition, but it's also part of the purification. Like if you have one of these bijams in that mantra, you're working on something, that an opening that's imminent. It's going to happen soon in your spiritual life, and so you have to keep it up. That's why repetition, as I was saying earlier, is very important. So there's that famous quote by Vasishta we can go to now. To strive for enlightenment devoid of Guru Diksha, that is, initiation by an authentic teacher, and without teachings, is like trying to grow crops only at night. Therefore, until thy mind is enlightened, follow the path of initiation shown by the illumined souls. So, you go to an authentic teacher, you're fortunate enough to find one, you bow at the feet, prostrate, question, serve and question, and then you get the teachings, and they give you the mantra, and you get free. That's a short rendering of it. That's in the tradition. And might as well take Sri Ramakrishna's saying down at the bottom while we're doing the quotes of this chart. The true Guru is nothing less than the cosmic mind, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, manifesting itself in some rare soul. The Guru initiates those sincere spiritual aspirants who are especially keen for self-realization. So, and they will have to test you in this day and age, like in my own case. You should wait a year. In the meantime, I came back to him several times in that year, from Hawaii back to Portland, Oregon, where he was holding the Vedanta Center, and took teachings from him constantly. And so it wasn't just go away for a year and they'll never see you again. It's that you take these revealed scriptures from them. There are other forms of the mantra you're getting, like discourses, talks, lectures, and pre-initiation mantra, and talks with your sangha. That now you're beginning to acquaint yourself with these beings who are also on the path, that you want to follow. So there's so many forms of the mantra or the Vakdevi that are there available for spiritual aspirants if they will partake of them, and that's their new responsibility. If they're going to tend their own spiritual life, then they have to make themselves a participant in their spiritual life and be about that every day of their life. When our founder, Lex Hixon, again said, your initiation, is every day, and if you want to know the truth, it's every breath. So each breath you take, you should. In fact, that's a practice called ajapa. If you see something like 400,000 breaths a day and 200,000 a night, that is in breath, held breath, out breath is one breath. So you do that many hundred thousands of times every day and every night. What if you were to do the mantra with every breath? You'd have more mantras to your credit than Holy Mother did, and she did hundreds of thousands sometimes a day for the good of her devotees. So the mantra can also, with a bijam in it, can also help others if you've realized it. To the extent that you've realized it, and you go to different places, and you're saying the mantra in your head, you're helping people. I remember in long drives across the country with Lex Hixon, when we were doing the Jai Ma Music Great Swan Tours, we both had our beads in our hands as we drove, and we were saying the mantra through neighborhoods and through cities of America. And Swamis that lived after Vivekananda and before Lex and I were doing that, like Swami Paramananda would take a train across the United States from New England to his center in San Francisco, in La Crescenta, and then back again a few months later to Providence, Rhode Island. He had 2 Vedanta centers. Back and forth he went several times a year on that train doing his mantra across the whole country. Non-stop, except when he slept. So if you're a realizer of the depth and profundity of the mantra and who you're worshiping in it and who exists in it, then you're acting as a great aid to people, whether they know it or not, if you're in their periphery. You see, someone once told, I was there when someone once told Lex, oh, you're doing the mantra, I see 108 beads, I do 100 for myself and 8 for the world. And Lex said, I do all 108 for the world. So at that time, Lex wasn't doing the mantra for himself anymore. It was just a beautiful thing to do. He said it was like a bubbling spring of ambrosia that came up in him, you see. And so first it was a practice, and it protected you. We went through this all last week and the week before. Remember the facts of the 14 facts of the mantra, how at first it acts as a protection, and later on it introduces you to the first form of the mother, and later on the second form. We went through all that. So this is actually, I'm describing it, how it is in practice of a person who does it over 40, 50, 60 years, like we saw Lex Hixon doing it after he got the mantra from Swami Nikhilananda in New York at the Vedanta Center when he was in his 20s. So all of this is an ongoing thing that much of which is hidden, like the mantra itself is hidden, but it's becoming more familiar to people now, and there are people who are actually practicing it in our own cities we live in the neighborhoods we go through. And those are our spiritual brothers and sisters. And as far as India is concerned, it doesn't matter that much what the Ishtam is, if you're in that family, that universal family. A Shaivite worshipping Shiva, a Vaishnava worshipping Krishna, a Shakta worshipping Divine Mother, a Ganapatya worshipping Ganesha. They all have the mantra, and it's all known what the mantra is and how powerful it is and how helpful it is, and no matter what the deity is. But you should know the deity and the bijams that connect you to him. So then let's look here at some of these other kinds of diksha as a matter of interest, because Sri Ramakrishna did use Sankalpa Diksha. He actually used that a couple times on Swami Vivekananda. That is, he thought about Naren to help him in his meditations. He said, "You don't look so bright today as you usually do. I'm having a hard time meditating, you know." So Sri Ramakrishna said, "Go home, that'll pass." And so Sri Ramakrishna then did a Sankalpa Diksha and thought about Vivekananda, and you know, next time he saw Vivekananda, he was like, you know, all raised up and everything. And so that's by thought or by will, these great souls who are masters of mantra, as well as what's beyond mantra, in Sri Ramakrishna's case, the Mahavakyas, they can just think about you, Sankalpa-wise. Other people's Sankalpas are, you know, fantasies and pleasures and various fantastic dreams. Some of them are possible. But the Sankalpa of a great soul is very beneficial. And there's another one, Chakshu Diksha, a glance. That might be Divine Mother's own favorite, because they say if she turns her eyes and looks at you, then you get liberated right there. Chakshu Diksha. Chakshu means Jnana Chakshu, the wisdom eye. If she looks at you with that eye, then you get liberated. Hasta Diksha we talked about. Vak Diksha, by a word or an utterance. So if you are, like I was sitting with my teacher Swami Sheshananda, and I listened to every word he said in every lecture I went to, I was wide awake, not sleepy, fully attentive, listening to Swami Sheshananda, every word he said. And his Indian accent made it even more important that I stayed concentrated, because sometimes he couldn't catch everything he said. But that was what I was practicing without knowing it, Vak Diksha. He was, since I was so concentrated on him, he was transmitting it to me. Other people in the room weren't getting it. I found that out later. And so a lot can happen if you open a channel to your guru with full concentration. And then that's guru-shishya relationship is very powerful. And in a lifetime, the teacher could get free, and the student could get free, and the teacher can go on and fry other fish, as they say. Sparsha Diksha, by the touch to the heart or to the body or to the head. We said that already. Dhyan Diksha, by meditating on the aspirant. That's somewhat related to Sankalpa Diksha, but in this case I think deeper. They actually take you as a form of meditation and think about you. And this can happen after they're out of the body, that is, dead, as you say. What a laugh. So after they've transcended the body and they're outside in the eternal life, they can be meditating not only on a person but on a whole race or on a whole group of beings, like 5 million beings now who are following Sri Ramakrishna. You don't think he's keeping them in mind? And she, Holy Mother, is also keeping you in mind if you belong to their family, and protecting you from all sorts of ills of this world right now, and opening up all sorts of avenues for you. You just have to run along them now. Mantra Diksha is the one I said that is the most important and the safest for you right now. Swapna Diksha is a very good one, a very interesting one. Swapna means dream. So you can get a transmission in a dream from a great soul. I've had that experience several times in my own life. So that is also a kind of perfection. Remember, Swapna Siddha is a kind of perfection. You can actually get liberated in a dream if the soul, if you're ready, and the soul who's transmitting the ability for freedom to you, if there's a very auspicious moment in timing, then you can get Swapna Siddha. It's one of the 5 types of perfection that happen. We had a chart on that recently here in class. Shaktipat, yeah, beware, be careful. Make sure that before you open yourself up to transferring a subtle power, that person that's transferring it to you is pure and with the best intentions. Has the 4 qualifications of a teacher. You can find teachings on that on our website. We've given that before. 4 qualifications of a teacher. Then the Shaktipat will be pure. And finally, Pada Diksha. It's an interesting one because people touch the Guru's feet and I don't think they know what that means. But those who do, and many of them are Hindu in India, of course, know that if they can touch the feet of the Guru, then they're going to be get great benefit from that. Pada Diksha, because the feet are have lotus feet, they call them, have the digits and so forth, and so much profound significance to the walking of the feet across the earth, and where the feet have been, even the subtle feet in dream, where the Guru has gone when he or she has walked on subtle feet in the kingdoms of heaven within. So this is an important kind of diksha. I remember in Holy Mother's case, people found out about the power of Pada Diksha, that the Guru could transfer beneficial things to you if you touched his or her feet, but they'd also take on some of your karma. So she would run into people who would come to see her who would stay at a distance. See, so why don't you come closer, my darling? Come on, dear, come closer, So, and then so they'd maybe pranam, bow to her from a distance. She said, why don't you come, take the dust of the feet? So it's part of the tradition. Says, we don't want to transfer our bad karma to you. She said, oh, what else am I here for? You see. And besides, you'll get good things too. I'll get good things from you if you're a good person. So if they still didn't come forward, then that probably wasn't a good sign. But maybe they had a low self-esteem. They were good people, humble, and pious people came to her. So there's a lot of meaning in each one of these forms of diksha, and a lot of stories attached to them in the tradition that you can learn about. And I must say, and we can probably close here because it's about time, we're about to have our puja for Sri Ramakrishna here right after class, and prasad dinner after that because his birthday is Tuesday. So ending with a nice illustration here that was penciled out on a piece of paper, which is now worm-eaten, and I still have a copy of it, by Mr. Morosi, who was the teacher of Vedanta on Oahu in Honolulu for 40, 50 years with his wife, Mrs. Morosi. And so they did this, he did this drawing once and just kind of almost threw it away, and I was able to retrieve it after he passed away. And because he was walking through all pictures of people in swapna, in dream, and people receiving mantra diksha in their minds, and people getting chaksha diksha and hasta diksha, I thought, well, marvelous, that piece can be used for this chart about all these different dikshas that are there in the tradition of Vedic and Tantric religion and philosophy. So then this is a spiritual shout out to Mr. Morosi and Mrs. Morosi, who are back within us fondly in our memories, that he would be very happy to see this chart being used for something. He was an architect, and some of his pieces are there on Oahu. You can go see them. He was somewhat well known locally. So he had a lot of artistic ability and could also teach the Vedanta very nicely. So I think here, although I had a few more charts, we didn't really get to the chart on that I had showed you about the mala, but maybe we will get to that in another series or in another application of another of this eternal dharma, these eternal dharma aspects that are available and open to us if we'll find a teacher who can discourse on them, go to those talks, and then afterwards take your notes and your memories and go back and meditate, even under a tree if you must, or in your own shrine room, and prepare yourself more and more for this, the beauties and the intricacies of spiritual life, of inner life, internal life, to complement your outer life and make it much richer, much fuller. Om Bhadram Karnebhihi Srinayama Devaha Bhadram Pasyema Akshabirya Jatraha Stiraya Rangayish Tushtuvamsas Tanuvir Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuho Swasti Na Indra Vrida Shravaha Swasti Naha Pusha Vishwadevaha Svasti nastarksho arishtanemihi. Svasti no brihaspatir dadatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we hear with these ears what is noble and uplifting. And may we see with these eyes what is good and spiritual. And may we, while worshipping the Lord and Mother, Shiva and Shakti, with healthy minds and bodies, live a life which is beneficial to ourselves and to all other beings. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om.